What's up, guys? Here for another breakdown on this college basketball Saturday. I'm going to try to make this one a little bit quicker, as this is not one of my bigger plays, but I do like it. The game I'm going to be breaking down here is the Tennessee Volunteers, 2-point favorites coming in as the number 10 team in the country, going against an unranked Kentucky Wildcats team. The Volunteers come in off a big win, defeating the number one team in the country at home on Wednesday night, as they defeated the Alabama Crimson Tide in a really good physical game. I actually had a play on Tennessee in that game. My earlier breakdown, I liked them at home in that spot, and they were able to get us to the window. The Volunteers come in, as mentioned, as 2-point favorites. They're 20-6 overall in the season, 9-4 in the conference. The Wildcats, on the other hand, 17-9 and 8-5 in conference. And two teams in very different spots here, right? Tennessee is vying for seeding. That win against Alabama maybe put them closer to the 2 line. The Wildcats, on the other hand, are battling just to get into the NCAA tournament. The SEC is not on the uptick this year, a little bit down, not a lot across the conference, right? Good teams at the top with Alabama and Tennessee having really good years. A couple of other teams have underperformed. Kentucky being one of them. Arkansas, who has experienced a lot of injuries, has underperformed. And then you have a team like A&M who has really overperformed, but is still unranked. And so this is going to be an interesting matchup. And when you break it down, you look at the two teams. What does Tennessee do well? Well, Tennessee is an elite defensive team, right? They are one of the best defensive teams in the country, according to KenPom, right? They are the number one adjusted efficiency team in the country, right? Just 55th offensively. They're the number one team in effective field goal percentage allowed. Teams shoot just 41% effective field goal percentage on the year against Tennessee. And additionally, they are elite at defending the 3-point line. And I mentioned this in my breakdown of the Alabama Tennessee game on Wednesday. Tennessee allows teams to shoot just 24.7% from three. Now, Alabama did hit a number of threes in that game. And if you watched it, Tennessee didn't look elite defending the 3-point line. But over the course of the season, they really have done a fantastic job. They're physical on the ball, they make it tough. And part of the reason Alabama was able to hit threes is, number one, they're one of the best shooting teams in the country, and number two, Tennessee, because they were struggling to guard some of the athletes of Alabama in the second half for stretches, did go to a 2-3 zone and got lost in transition a couple times, which allowed Alabama's shooters, who are really good, to get free. Nonetheless, it's important to mention that, because when you look at Kentucky, they're a really good offensive team, which is a little abnormal for a Calipari team, right? They kind of pride themselves on defense and physicality, but they're the number 16 team in the country offensively and 101st defensively. Now, Kentucky shoots the ball at 36.3% from three, a pretty good number, and that number increases when they play at home, which is where they'll be playing tomorrow at Rep Arena, or today rather. And you think Tennessee, being an elite defensive and 3-point defensive team, might be a big factor in this game. But the reason that it will not be is when you look at it, Tennessee, and what this number shows basically is the amount of threes that a team takes compared to the total amount of field goals it takes. And Kentucky takes just 30% of its shots as 3-pointers, and that's good for one of the worst in the country. And when I say worst, I mean the least amount of threes taken in the country per shot. Their offense, only 27% of their total production, of their total points, come from the 3-point line, right? 56% of their production comes from twos. And so although Tennessee is really, really good at defending the 3-point line and Kentucky shoots the ball well from three, I think the fact that Kentucky doesn't rely on the 3-pointer is going to be a positive for them. And it's going to help them to actually create some good looks. And when they do shoot threes, they're going to take good ones because they don't take a ton of bad threes. They're patient offensively, and they are able to find ways to score in the half court, um, working the ball inside and working it inside out. When you look at this Tennessee team and what they do well, aside from defense, the one thing they do really well and where they have a distinct advantage, and they had an advantage against Alabama here, is rebounding the ball. Right, Tennessee is a really good rebounding team, and they rely on it to win games. They create a ton of offensive rebounds, um, and because of that, um, they're able to gain more possessions than their opponent is in a game. However, Kentucky is the number one offensive rebounding team in the country according to offensive rebound percentage. They rebound 38% of their missed shots on offense. That's a huge number. And so in a game where Tennessee's advantages lie in defending the 3-point line, defending shooters, and creating extra possessions, um, those are all areas that Kentucky does well. And this is why Kentucky was able to beat Tennessee earlier in the year. And that was when Tennessee was playing really good basketball. They beat them by 7 on the road in a really, really underrated environment in college basketball. Tennessee and Knoxville is a very tough place to play. Um, and I think that Kentucky is going to pull the upset for the second time against the Vols tomorrow. And as much as it pains me to say that, because I like the Volunteers and I like Rick Barnes, I tend to root for them. And I'm not a big Calipari fan. I think the Wildcats are going to find a way to get it done. Quickly, when you look at the game against Alabama, previous to that, Tennessee had really struggled. They had lost 3 of their last 4 games. But when you dig into the numbers against that Alabama team, what got them over the hump really was the home court advantage. That crowd willed them to a victory because Tennessee did not play all that well. They did not shoot the ball well. They shot it at 36% from the field on the game, 26% from 3, and 64% from the free throw line. So how did they win? They dominated the battle of turnovers and points off turnovers. They forced 19 turnovers in the game and only committed 8. Um, and when you look at Kentucky, and this is, I believe, the difference in the game. This is what's going to put me on Kentucky. Before this, I think I liked Kentucky. When I saw this number, I went ahead and placed a wager on Kentucky. And that's the fact that when you look at the initial numbers, Kentucky is 80th in the country in turnover percentage, as you can see here at 17%. However, when you look at them at home, they are just averaging 9.9 turnovers per game, and their turnover percentage drops to 12.5%. And when you look at turnover percentage, 12.5% would be good for number one in the country, right? The best team in the country turns it over at 13.3%. Um, Kentucky at home is better than that number. They do not turn the ball over at home. They tend to get rattled sometimes on the road, and that's what leads to really high turnover percentage. It's why they've struggled at times on the road this season. And when they get home, they just do not turn the ball over. And when you're looking at a team in Tennessee that is not a good shooting team, they've got a couple of key injuries, guys battling injuries right now, and they're relying on a home crowd to will them to some victories. Now they're coming off a big win, an emotional win against the number one team in the country, against one of their rivals. Now they're going on the road to play a Kentucky team that really is playing for more than Tennessee is, right? They're playing to get in the tournament. If Kentucky wins this game, this likely cements them as a NCAA tournament team. And so you got a hungry tournament a team trying to get in the tournament, playing at home in one of the best college basketball environments in the country, in the history of college basketball, and with a number of statistical advantages. For those reasons, I'm going to go ahead and take Kentucky plus the 2. I think they do win the game outright. I'll go ahead and take the 2 points because Tennessee has lost a couple of games in heartbreaking fashion at the buzzer. And if those 2 points cost me 10%, instead of getting plus 100 or even money to minus 110. I'll go ahead and take those 2 points in this one. So go ahead and give me the Wildcats. It's the second bet I've got on the Wildcats this weekend, as I've got the Kansas State Wildcats as well. And hopefully they can get us to the window and for the second time, go Wildcats.